So let me begin by, thanking everybody for the opportunity as an alumni, especially to come back and present on, something that's kind of near and dear to my heart. I'm a proud alumni of Liberty University twice. I've got family that have attended. Liberty and Lynchburg in the surrounding area, has a lot of, there are a lot of roots here for us. So I'm thankful for this opportunity to join the conversation today. My conversation is going to be about technology and how stalkers and abusers leverage that, exploit it to their advantage to harm others. And along with that, it helps to know not only what they do to cause harm and how they do it, but also how we as individuals, families, entrepreneurs, et cetera, can protect ourselves against a lot of these threats that are constantly evolving. And I'd like to start off with the Bible verse that, I've identified as kind of our business mantra. It guides a lot of the work we do. Psalm 82, 3-4, give justice to the poor and the orphan, uphold the rights of the oppressed and the destitute, rescue the poor and helpless, and deliver them from the grasp of evil people. So while we may not get it right 100% of the time, we do everything within our power. And, through God's grace and the knowledge that he's granted us to help pull people out of really bad, dark situations and put them back on a path to healing, recovery, and long-term success. When it comes to their personal lives. Let's see, it's not clicking over. So a little bit about me. I've graduated twice from Liberty with a bachelor's in information management and then a master's in cybersecurity. I did do that while I was in the military. I was Army for 8 years, spent time in roles ranging from signals intelligence to leading personal security details for officers, diplomats, and others in Iraq, and taking part in combat operations and hostage rescue situations. Along with that, I've launched my own business back in 2019, 2020, working with small organizations, nonprofits, and individuals, helping advise and protect them around their online security. We do a lot of investigative work. We help clients develop protection plans, escape plans, if they're in a domestic situation. And then we also specialize in stalking, doxing, and other similar cases. I've also served as an expert witness in courts, primarily in Texas for clients experiencing criminal and civil matters. Most recent one was a federal case that we were able to help our client win their case and earn their freedom. So that was very time consuming, very very near and dear to our heart, just based on it being a single mother with 3 daughters. And then I'm also chairman of the board for a nonprofit called We Create Warriors, which specializes and focuses on the long-term recovery from trafficking, from domestic abuse, and other situations like that. We help advise survivors on the long-term plans for either going back to school, how to prepare for interviews, and prepare their resumes and such for interviews and for looking for either their first job or because of whatever they went through. It has been a while since they worked, so we work with them wherever they are to ensure they're successful. So we're based out of Texas right now, working on becoming global, but we've been building out a massive network to have the greatest impact, around the country. And then from a business standpoint, a lot of the clients I work with are in the oil and gas space, energy, retail, financial, pharmaceutical, and and other spaces. So the reason why we specialize in the casework we do is because while there are other organizations that try to help out in this space, there are not enough. There are not enough people with our background in technology, forensics, investigative skills, really jumping in there to help at the level of detail, that we do. Digital abuse definitely has been around pretty much as long as technology has been around, right? So people always, stalking people, trying to find out any information they can to bully them and to cause harm. Coming off the heels of COVID-19, the pandemic definitely led to an increased frequency of abuse, stalking, cyberbullying, students being online much more frequently, due to lockdowns. The National Domestic Violence Hotline reported 19% of their calls in 2020 were related to digital abuse. So that covers a whole wide range of, aspect, right? Not only stalking people, but bullying people, sextortion, revenge porn, a lot of, different types of abuse came about from COVID, especially. Specifically to our background, we've supported over 24 cases since 2019 alone, where the abusers leverage technology in various capacities to enable their physical abuse as well. So there's a strong nexus between the digital world and online abuse, stalking, doxing, and what happens in the physical world as well. And to that end, we've partnered with another nonprofit called Operation Safe Escape to support investigations. So for that firm or nonprofit, we would do a lot of digital forensic support. So looking at cell phones, looking at computers, MacBooks, and putting together a case for those victims and survivors and help advocate for them. So I think we can all agree with our various exposure to technology. I know a lot of us own smartphones, and we have dozens, if not hundreds, of online accounts on our own. The simple proliferation, the explosiveness of how pervasive smartphones have become, how interconnected our lives have become with technology. A lot of people have adopted smart locks for their homes. You can use a mobile app to unlock it. You've got smart light bulbs. You've got the Amazon Alexa devices connected, placed in many common areas in homes. All of this to say it's really lowered the bar for people that intend to do harm to others and want to stalk either current partners or former partners. It really lowers the bar for their ability to, leverage these different things to keep track of somebody. And many times, they don't even realize it. The victim does not even realize it. And many times it doesn't require physical access. So, partners, ex-husbands, ex-girlfriends, wives, it goes across both genders. By nature of relationships, will typically, know the passwords, know the questions to get connected to their account. So there's just a lot of aspects and complexities to these cases that most people don't even think about when separating. And on that, couples definitely share accounts, whether they're married or just cohabiting. And in many, many cases, when somebody comes to us and they're just so confused, they said, I've changed my phone, I've moved, I've put in these other controls, but a lot of the common threads, the common vectors for, these accounts are not complex hacking situations. They don't have, malware and things like that on their devices. Usually, I would say in over 75% of our cases, they're the results of forgotten accounts that they shared, such as iCloud accounts are very popular. So, somebody will still have access to that. They'll still be able to see, text message history, locations, email address, email history, things like that. And so, in many of the cases we work, we look for the low hanging fruit. And this can typically resolve a lot of cases and really cut out these abusers and stalkers by going through documenting the types of accounts you have and then reviewing, who has access, do they still have access, are there strange devices that you don't remember or recognize, and kicking those off, and also iPhone specifically, disabling the keychain backup. So iPhones are notorious for, even when you set up these controls and protections and disable certain things after they go through updates, many times we see they revert back to their default. So it's always important to make sure you're not backing up your keychain, for example, where your passwords are. Do not store passwords in your browser. A lot of these behavioral things will definitely rectify and remediate a lot of these challenges when it comes to former partners being able to track what you're still doing through different accounts. And again, the most common that we see are the iCloud accounts, your streaming services, banking and financial. Definitely going to your bank or retirement account holder and reviewing those same controls and making sure that somebody that has a power of attorney, that you're no longer in a relationship with, or if that situation has changed, making sure that is revoked so that they cannot get access to your funds. And then that goes for phone providers, internet providers, things like that. So again, I included some statistics here from the Pew Research Center, which talk about, the percent of adults who say they have shared their passwords and credentials with a spouse, a significant other. So you can see that here, and I can share this presentation with anybody that's interested after as well for reference. Kind of drilling further down into that, here's some additional statistics around when, again, this is from the Pew Research and also ExpressVPN, are the ones who put together these images. So, a lot of couples start sharing passwords, anywhere from 3 to 6 months on, all the way up to, after marriage. And then breaking it further down, we have a lot of people that, we have seen firsthand and dealt with in the industry, where either they'll just give a partner access to one account, such as their banking PIN, their computer passcode, which, frankly, if you give somebody access to your phone or computer, a lot of our lives are run off of that, especially smartphones, through banking apps, through music streaming services, retirement accounts, and this is how we communicate and interact with family and friends and, our businesses. So just some things to keep in mind. Being a faith-based, company and, believing in the sanctity of marriage, we understand relationships do not always work out. So, we have strategies and consulting we provide around, how to, protect yourself and your own interest, as well as, still, being able to share access to certain things safely, and then being able to revoke that afterwards should a relationship not work out. Stalking is a major situation we find ourselves involved in. Stalking can manifest in the physical world as well as cyberspace. So at the very rudimentary form, it's basically when someone uses the internet to leverage all the data they can pull from it, from your social media accounts to if you have a website, if you have groups are a part of online. It's very, very easy to paint a picture of, who somebody is, what they're interested in, as well as get very personal information, right? Their relationships, their banking information. You can get, their criminal history, their driving history, what they drive. I mean, there's a lot of free sites you can get this information from, and other data brokers that give this up pretty free. So it's very important to recognize there's definitely a strong need, to understand what your digital footprint is, what's out there, and even protecting yourself proactively, even if you don't have anything going on. Your personal data is worth a lot more than oil these days, so it's definitely worth looking at your own digital footprint as part of that. So again, technology, ride-sharing services, food delivery services, just the rapid advancement in technology has opened the door for those who intend to do harm with it. And again, in a lot of cases, we see, where there's a will, there's a way. People are heavily motivated to do this. So, we're just, these are some examples of what we've seen firsthand, and in other cases, we've worked with clients where the former partner would enlist the help of DoorDash, for example, and Grubhub, to deliver things to different homes and apartments where our clients lived. Even though they repeatedly moved, they would use these services to bypass things like, different controls that they've got, different restraining orders that they have with cities and local authorities, to still get the information about where their former partner lives. So I've confronted a couple of delivery people before in other states and asked them, "Are you giving this information back to this particular person?" And so they would show me on their phone, yes, they were asked to confirm if this other party lived at the residence and the kids. So we've had to work with corporate headquarters of DoorDash, Uber, et cetera, and explain that, these are major safety violations, and we need to work on, the insider risk. We need to work on, knowledge of, this is enabling abusers to maintain access to their victims. So we need to educate, drivers and employees of the companies to not divulge this information. So definitely a lot of opportunities for growth and improvement there. And then we share that information with law enforcement and lawyers as part of our other, cases. The reports we put together for them. Other types of devices that we see in use, physically to track people are the Apple AirTags, smartwatches, which includes, your Apple Watches, Samsung. Basically they're all able to be leveraged remotely to track people. So you don't have to be nearby. And the Tile Bluetooth trackers are good for tracking keys, wallets, and also, I've seen them placed in purses, suitcases, trunks of vehicles, very hidden parts of cars to remotely track where a person of interest is going. So there's just so many angles and aspects to look at and review besides just, compromised accounts and things like that. So just to provide a visual overview of the types of tools we see day to day, we've got the Wi-Fi pineapple. I'm sure you've heard people say, use a VPN when you're in a coffee shop or public area. Don't do your personal banking on these public Wi-Fi networks. Why? Because there are people out there with nefarious intent that have devices like the Wi-Fi pineapple. I personally have one for demo purposes, but this is able to be hidden in a backpack. It's very small. It's about the size of your average smartphone. So the average person, you can hide it very easily and nobody will realize it, but hackers and stalkers like to use it in public places because, they can intercept your Wi-Fi traffic, get your passwords, get your other data, and then continue their monitoring and attacks from far away. So this is one device that we see very commonly because it's very affordable. It's very cheap. It's like, I mean, it's under $200 right now. So definitely one big one we see a lot. Amazon. It's a double-edged sword because you can get a lot of cheap, affordable, stalking and monitoring gadgets from there. One example that we see, not super common, but we've seen it in a couple this past year. Your classic stuffed teddy bear, right? So that sits on a shelf, sits on a dresser, but the average person doesn't realize it's got a camera. Typically, in the eye right here is where the camera sits, and then you've got a DVR inside. And in some cases, it can be set up to send, the data remotely, and in some cases, it requires physical access to get the data off of it. And there's a lot of cheap, like under $20 tools people can use to plug into electrical outlets, to coffee makers. I mean, you name it, it can be bought and blended in very easily and send data remotely to remotely stalk and keep track of people. Another one are the Bluetooth tiles. I've got these for my keys. I've lost them before, so again, anything can be used for good, but the focus is they're being used for evil intent. Same thing with the Apple AirTags. The developers of these products have also been working on alerting. So if there's a strange one near you that's not already associated with your iPhone or device, it'll alert you after a period of time. They keep, tweaking and modifying, what's the threshold, 30 minutes, a couple hours. So that's always evolving with how they're trying to help, from an Apple standpoint, help mitigate, the malicious use of it. From a physical device perspective still, this came out about a year or two, the Flipper Zero. It's kind of a pen tester's dream. There's a lot of packages and pre-built apps you can download. And with this device, you can do everything from open gates, garages, get into baby cameras, clone credit cards, phones. It's endless. It's limitless right now with what it can be used for, and it's about the size of an iPhone. So it's definitely a tool that has a lot of nefarious purposes. I haven't seen it used a lot in stalking cases, but it's becoming more prominent in like Europe and here in the U.S. from what I'm seeing in the industry. From a software perspective, Congress has been doing a lot to try to, shut down a lot of these companies that offer, remote spyware tools. One such one is MSpy. That's a common one I see that comes up in digital forensic investigations. So if somebody knows your iCloud, username and password, then they can log in remotely to get this set up and don't need access to your device. However, there is a method to install it physically as well. So this is just one of dozens that are out there, that are available for, hackers and stalkers and abusers to keep tabs on people. And many times I see it put on teens and kids' phones because, typically the other parent is, they'll notice when things are up, when they're not getting messages, when they're not getting phone calls. And with kids, it's a little easier to get away with putting these on their devices. Other behaviors we see, I know this is a lot, but some of the common ones for stalking that we see are, trolling, I guess is another word for it these days, where people post rude, offensive, or inappropriate comments. They'll follow the target online, their former partner or somebody they're infatuated with but have not met. I've worked with social media influencers, if you will, where the person bothering them, they've never met physically, but they have all this information on them. They troll them. They cause all these problems. So this is a common tactic and technique that people use. And to get around blocking and all of that, they'll create, fake profiles. They'll create fake email accounts. Sometimes they're known as sock puppet accounts, or have friends and family do the same to target their people they're interested in. And then it can escalate. We see this a lot where threatening messages are sent, or controlling. We'll see this in sextortion, where somebody sends inappropriate photos of themselves, right? Very suggestive photos, because they believe this person on the other end loves them, or, they groom them to believe that they love them, and they can give them all these, riches and great jobs. And then when they stop sending messages, they'll threaten to contact their family, their place of employment, and, leak all of these sensitive photos and information to the internet. So in many cases, they're just bluffing, and they don't really have anything on you. But in some cases where somebody did admit to sharing sensitive photos, that requires a different approach to clean that up. So again, that falls into blackmailing the target, especially in relationships. And then we see a lot of people that either make comments, or they'll like somebody's post on social media. Sometimes they'll just like it, or use another account to like it, to not draw attention to themselves. They'll, in some cases, we see repeated messaging to our clients, about, they love them, they want to meet with them, or if they were in a relationship previously, they're sorry, they won't do whatever it was again, whether it's financially controlling them, whether it's, physically abusing them. So this comes up a lot as well. So that just helps build a case against the perpetrator. And then in some cases as well, hacking is a very common, situation we see, where people will lose access to email accounts they've had for 10, 15, 20 years, to social media accounts like Facebook, Instagram. So these people will hijack them, change the recovery information, and make it very hard to get those back. Again, going back to what I talked about on the previous slide, we see a lot of abusers and former partners sending unwanted gifts. We have one client still going through this, where her ex-husband is using the shipment of goods like cookies and stuff for the kids, to them, to try to buy their love, to get them back. And it's also used as a technique to validate whether the person lives there or not still. So these are all just a lot of different strategies we see in the real world, and each one requires a different strategy to, overcome all of that. So, moving on from there, we recognize we're creatures of habit, right? So if you like to work out, typically people like to run in the same routes, at the same universities, the same tracks. A lot of people will go to the same gyms, or take the same route to work or school or to the store. Even during the same times of day. Sometimes people only shop on Sundays or Saturdays. So former partners know this. They know your habits intimately and can weaponize it against you. And, to go into another case we had this past year, this particular client used Strava for running. So she was a semi-pro athlete. She was being sponsored. And, as part of that sponsorship deal, the company wanted her to keep it public. So her Strava account had to show, the date she ran, the routes she would run, the distances, and all of the other information that's available on there. So she couldn't make that private, which was challenging because her stalker was a former partner, a guy that used to run with her in different towns. And then, they had a falling out. There were some very inappropriate things that he did against her. And as part of the legal battle that she opened against him, we had to find a way to, make sure that he couldn't, use that as a stalking tool, a way to track her, a way to follow her, and also confirm, right? So even though she blocked his account, which is a pretty normal step, she blocked his account, and then we learned that he was also using colleagues of his, people he worked with, other runners, to keep tabs on what she's doing, even though he was blocked. So, as part of our effort and our casework, we had to investigate different accounts that she was connected with publicly, and find any ties back to her former partner. So, which helped her build her case that he was, violating court orders not to stalk her, that he was violating other agreements and using third parties to do this. So in many states, that is a felony. It's just a matter if law enforcement and district attorneys will prosecute it. So it depends how egregious the case is and, the caseload, if they'll take it or not. So unfortunately, it's been hit or miss with the ones we've worked if law enforcement will pursue those. But, saying all of that, we recognize, fitness apps are a great way to connect with others, to share your fitness journey. We've done that in the past. And while there are ways that these are abused, there are ways to protect yourself. It's a little more challenging if you're a professional athlete and your sponsor requires you to keep everything public. If you're not a professional athlete, it's easier to take advantage of a lot of settings and configurations within the apps to say, only people can follow you, only certain people can follow you. Make sure, your updates are not shared to Facebook or Instagram. A lot of these apps have integrations with different platforms. So, there are strategies there that, if you would like help with, we can definitely help you there. Or, there are definitely, controls listed, through Google searches to better protect yourself. And then on that note, with the proliferation of smart cars, especially since, 2010 roughly, a lot of the vehicles we buy, just have tons of data points that it collects on us, from seatbelt usage to our driving habits, how fast we drive, the devices we connect. If you have one of the infotainment systems with Google or Microsoft or Apple, all of these pieces of data are collected whether we like it or not, and they are sent to different servers around the world, back to the car manufacturers. And like this slide illustrates, a lot of it is sold, and unless we go into different settings and tell the manufacturers we don't want this data collected and sold, it's being done. So if you've got a newer car, these are just things to think about. And the reason I mention this is because we've had cases where clients notice some devices have connected to their system and they don't recognize them. So just at a high level, some things that your smart car knows about you are your friends and family. You can connect through Bluetooth and send email messages, text messages, take calls through it, and all of that is recorded and kept, in the system. Your music preferences, where do you like to eat? If you use, the connected GPS settings to help you navigate to different locations. If you use that frequently, then that's stored indefinitely and sent back to, different servers and third parties. People are stalking you and abusing you. It really does not take much for them to either you can use the flipper, like I mentioned, you can use a laptop, you can use a smartphone to remotely connect in many cases and get this information. There have been cases where somebody cloned a victim's key fob, especially for the push-to-start vehicles, and they're able to gain access to the vehicle and clone the information from the car on theirs and use that either in an ongoing custody battle against them or in some other nefarious purpose. So again, these are just really important things to know that your card tells about you, and there are ways to reduce your own risk when using these services as well, such as not connecting if you can avoid it. Again, technology is constantly evolving. I think we can all agree. One previous presenter was talking about generative AI. Artificial intelligence, machine learning is becoming ubiquitous, and it's being leveraged to commit a lot of these crimes as well. And so I think a lot of us are trying our best to stay ahead. And some of the ways we do that are through professional industry groups. Our teams take training in different areas, digital forensics, attending information sharing groups, podcasts, and we're constantly testing and evaluating our techniques, our tools, our processes, and adapting those to the evolution of changes that we see in the real world that attackers are using, hackers are using to try to stay ahead of the curve. And then even with clients we've worked with in the past, we'll reach out to them proactively with some of these updates and say, well, what we put in place, worked then. We need to make some minor changes or tweaks to make sure you're still protected. So that helps with, building client trust and satisfaction, and helping them understand that we've got their best interest at heart, and we want to, make sure they're continuously protected, especially if it was a private client instead of a corporate client. So just some things that we do there. And then we absolutely believe everybody can be proactive. There are a lot of things that you can do today, regardless of any change in the future of technology, to protect yourself. So, primarily, doing an assessment of your digital footprint. What social media accounts do you have? How many email addresses do you have out there? Do you really need all of those? In many cases, cutting back what you have, taking advantage of privacy and security controls on different platforms will go a long way in reducing your likelihood of being victimized. Yes, multi-factor authentication is a solid option where at all possible. So, but we know it can be bypassed. But collectively, with all these layered controls and keeping an eye on your accounts, you'll definitely be in a far greater place than those who don't. So if you do use multi-factor, definitely stay away from text-based codes or phone calls, because if your phone gets cloned, those will go directly to your attacker or stalker, and it'll negate anything else you're doing. So consider using something like a hardware key, mobile app, Google has an app, Microsoft has an app, ton of them out there that are highly rated. So consider using those with your accounts where possible. And then another important, common thread that we see where people can lower their chances of being victimized by former partners or just hackers or stalkers in general, whether you know them or not, is not using default passwords and logins on your smart devices, your home router, your online accounts. So, consider using a good password manager there's a lot of them out there, like 1Password, Bitwarden, Dashlane is one, and you can use those to create secure logins, unique logins for all of your accounts. I personally have hundreds of different accounts and services I use personally and for business, and without a password manager and the different controls, I would never be able to remember them. So, taking these initial steps will definitely make you a much harder target. And then consider setting up a secure email account. Proton I have listed as it's a very popular and trusted one, in our industry. So, using a secure email for sensitive things like schooling, for family, for friends, for, your financial accounts, for your medical providers. So having, something set up for those, with the right layered controls, and then using like a different email address for everything else, will go a long way as well in protecting your most sensitive information. And then making sure your phone is protected too, since that's our lifeblood these days. I know most of our cases that we do digital forensics on, over 90% are smartphones. So a lot of people do their banking, as we said, their texting, their communication. A lot of their transactions are done on the phone, and that's where most evidence is. So making sure you're keeping up with the patches, the updates that they come with, and not delaying those. Avoid using, apps that are outside the Google Play Store or Apple Store. Are also good strategies to, mitigate your risk. So that is, again, a very high level of what we do. We're very passionate about protecting people, protecting families and kids through different strategies. So, we definitely like to have a faith-based focus with our clients. We recognize not everybody that comes to us shares our beliefs, but we like to use it kind of as an unofficial ministry too. We have a lot of clients, families that enjoy, we'll do Bible studies on the side. We have group Bible studies that we offer. So it's just been really great, especially for people going through difficult family situations. So, we definitely want to stay in touch, with everybody here and be a resource for those that need it. If you need help with your privacy, with digital security, reducing your chances of being victimized, there's a lot of things that we can do, affordably and point you in the right direction. So this is our contact information. We look forward to hearing from you. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask.